Alright, I'm doing this shoot again. I just did 15 minutes and I realized I said every 5 seconds. So now I'm going to try and stop myself from saying Okay, I have some commentary on I have some commentary on somebody that I saw last night. I went to this little thing. It's called the Communikey Festival here in Boulder. It's an electronics art festival. Festival of Electronic Arts. Happens once a year at the university. And I saw a person called Lillevan. Lillevan is a well-known Berlin-based video artist. So, what can we learn when we go and see guys like this? Okay, that was an It's always good to wet the creative juices and realize how uncreative we are compared to some people, which is, you can see that as a bad thing. I saw that as a good thing because it can encourage you. So let me give you a background to this guy. The kind of stuff he does is performance art. So he'll go on stage with somebody else over here. I'm going to play this while. This is what I did on my last take when I had my 1,000 ums. He goes on stage, he collaborates with other people, other musicians, and he does his projection thing in the background, which is, I mean, just amazing, the stuff that he has. It's all this very organic kind of, you know, cells, looks like cells multiplying, and this crazy video stuff that he projects on the wall. So let me get to the point of what I'm trying to say here, which I haven't yet, have I? Let me give you, first of all, let's start out with the history of the guy. He's a really, really nice guy. He was born in Sweden, I think it was, and he said he moved 8 times in 8 years when he was a kid, so he didn't have a lot of friends. He had these really thick glasses. So what he used to do, he used to distort the light with these thick glasses, and from an early age he was like, that's what I want to do. He just wants to kind of create these distortions with his glasses. So he then he studied film, which he didn't like because he didn't like the nature that's always somebody else's script you're dealing with. It's always someone else's ideas, and then the politics and the producers and all this stuff. So he moved to Berlin right before the wall came down. This is a really interesting story, and this I think, you know, just ties into why he became who he became. You know, he was obviously a very talented guy, but he was kind of at the right place at the right time, simply because after the wall came down, before, a lot of people from East Germany figured out a way to get to West Germany via Hungary. They would leave their apartments, just leave everything and just go, because their apartments they didn't own any property because of communism. So he moved there and then just basically squatted in an apartment. He said you would look up and see if someone left the light on and observe this apartment by putting like a hair on the door for a couple of days. And a remarkable story. And then you just kind of bust in, and then after 3 months you'd find out who to send the rent check to, you know, what government department, and then you'd have an apartment for like $15 a month. So when the wall came down, he kind of commandeered these TV studios, and there was like a big projector there that he got to use, and he took over this factory where he made all this art and had all these installations, you know, like you can see over here. He's projecting this stuff. Ow, my arm, it's getting tired here. You know, projecting this stuff on the essentially on the, you know, just on some canvas. And he then formed this group called, what was the name of this group that he called? Rentgenzentrum, which is this, him and another guy, the other guy was doing the music and he did the video. So I have my notes here. You'd think on the second take I would know what I was going to say, but I just got too much crap going on here. So he said a few things that were very, very interesting. He was saying, and I'm still not really onto my point yet, but what he said was that the most interesting gigs that he ever did were not for these massive museums. You know, in Europe there's a lot of funding for art compared to the US, and because they're a bunch of socialists right now. And he was saying that a lot of these art museums will hire him to do a performance to promote the cause because they want to have they want to have a name and etc. etc. So basically get paid a shitload of money to go and perform it, like this art museum in Paris, which he said he did once. And he said it was just really disappointing because he came back on stage for an encore after performing and everybody was gone. Everyone just pissed off. And then it took them like 6 months to pay him and he had to phone in a million times and stuff. So he said for him, the most amazing performances that he's ever done, the most amazing creative times he's had is when he's just performed. He would go and perform in coffee shops and laundromats and restaurants and bars and crazy things like that, and he'd meet all these very interesting people and they'd say, hey, you want to come to Russia, and I'm the mayor of this town, and you want to come and perform in my little coffee shop in my town and stuff like that. And he said there's much more collaboration and interesting times he's had through that than going to these foo-foo museums. He said he worked for BMW, he hated it, he did some of their sales. He worked at a sales booth or something for auto show, and he did a projection. He said he hated the people in the cars and everything. So he's very, very, kind of very opinionated guy, but very, very interesting in that knows what he likes to do and he's just stuck to it. He creates all these images himself. He says he creates a lot of these crazy images in his bathroom. He has like a laboratory in there. He says he doesn't even use his bathroom as his bathroom. He goes down the road to a sports club to shower, which is kind of funny. But what struck me was his dedication to his art form. He's basically kind of fuck you attitude that I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I don't care if I'm the only person doing it in the world, I'm going to do it. And his originality, like a lot of this projection stuff was used first, in mainstream music in clubs and stuff like techno and trance. And he said he did that for a while. He said it was just kind of a load of, he doesn't like the music at all and stuff like that. And he didn't enjoy doing that kind of, the club and things like that. So, very, very interesting guy. Looking at my notes here, that's why I'm umming. He really, really, he's a really, really nice guy. He wasn't, I think if he had this kind of attitude, I think all artists, filmmakers, that you have to be a good people person. You could see he was pretty eloquent speaker, nice guy. He opinionated. He was saying stuff about how, he doesn't like techno and how he thinks if someone samples some white guy samples James Brown and puts it in music, and he thinks it's kind of, he said that's kind of stupid, and I didn't really agree with him on that, but just a really, really nice guy, creative guy, just doing what, just doing his art and just being original. I think that's something that's hard. Everybody, we watch YouTube, we see something, it's cool, and we kind of copy it, and yeah, sure, maybe he's probably copied some stuff, but I think today, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but what impressed me about him and what inspired me about him was his dedication, his steadfast views on, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I love doing, this is my art, I'm just going to do it. Now, as I said before in my previous, where am I at, 9 minutes, in my previous rant, could you do that today? In that book, Outliers, it's talking about how people have raw talent, but also they were the right place at the right time. I think he was definitely at the right place at the right time in Berlin, having free rent and access to all these spaces. Think about it today. Okay, I'm going to come to Boulder and become an artist. what am I going to do? I have to have a trust fund, or I have to flip burgers or cut bagels for 12 hours a day. You probably won't even be able to afford to live in Boulder if you do that. So he did. There was in the right place at the right time. But I think the inspirational part of what he said was, he's just doing. He was saying that another person was was giving a talk, and someone said, "Oh, I can't do this because my computer's a year old." And he was saying, this is bullshit. He says a lot of his stuff he hand draws. Oh, that was right. He uses particle emitters in some of his stuff, and you can see it looks like particle emitters, but he said he tried using them when they were too computer generated. So he'd break down the frame, 25 frames of the particle emitter video. He'd print out each frame, then hand draw each of those particles, which is remarkable. He said, yeah, it takes a long time. In his lab, which is his bathroom, he has all these crystals growing and mixes stuff up and films stuff and scans stuff and photographs stuff. So that was very, very, very interesting how he works. He's not doing all this 3D animation and stuff like that. I think he uses a lot of analog stuff, which I'm sure he's I think he's my age or a little bit younger than me. So he's from a time, if he started his art that long ago, he's probably used to photography and things like that. So, but in summary, what I'm trying to say is, if ever these little things come to your town, in Boulder we're somewhat isolated. We're stuck in the middle of, we're vast sea of liberals surrounded by, nothing really as far as culture-wise. Sure, okay, there's stuff in Denver obviously, but if you have access to these little talks, people like, this guy, he's a video artist, go to it. I think you can learn a lot. You can be inspired to, like I said, I think the third time I'm saying it, maybe you can move to a new city and squat in a house and just do your art 24/7. Maybe you're lucky enough to do that. But I think we're not gonna, we can't all follow the same path as he can, and maybe we don't want to. Maybe we don't want to just live like that. But his message in his life is a sorry, I'm playing with my notebook here, is an inspiration to us all. I think we can learn a lot about sticking to our art form and doing what we want to do, and just following what we love. So that's the end of the podcast. The audio is crappy. I'm using the GH2 here. If you come to the end of the podcast, congratulations. I hope there's a lot less ums, and I'm using a ridiculously large. I'm using a hack GH2 here, and this file is like 2 gigs, which is ridiculous. 2 gigabytes for a 12-minute file, 13-minute file, and the sound on this GH2 is absolutely rubbish. So I hope you enjoyed this. I will try and do some more interesting obviously I want to cover some tech because I love tech, but I've been looking at more of the creative aspects of filmmaking lately than just, I'm going to hack the GH2 and shoot this at 720 60p. So this is the first, I think, proper post I've done in that vein. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have some more stuff. NAB, who knows? So many people covered it at NAB. I don't know what I have to say about it other than whatever people have said. So I will attempt to do some more of this creative stuff. Great. Thanks for watching. Cheers.